Hi, my name is Byrne, and this is my final project demo for my ECE 5000 electrical design course. The goal of this project was to take a Pi Zero and an Xbox controller to make a retro game player. In this presentation, I'm going to show what the console actually comes with in a box, as well as the power requirements, some of the features, a couple playtests, how to download some games, as well as some general warnings and care tasks. Let's take a look at what's inside the box for our project. So here we can see that inside this box, once we open it, there are a couple things. This comes with the controller. This is a wired controller that's actually detachable, so here's actually the wire that goes into the controller itself. Here is the HDMI cable for the display. Next we actually have the power cord. And then finally, the most important part of this is the actual console design itself. The case for the console was made using an old NES cartridge as both a slim and clean design that also references retro games. A hole was cut out in the top so that way there would be access to the toggleable power button. A closer look at the sticker that was made shows retro game player with a joystick in the background, as well as the top part of the sticker that wraps around, saying ECE 5000 Project. If we take off the lid, we can take a closer look inside the circuit. Here we have the Raspberry Pi as well as the micro SD card that holds RetroPie on our games. Here is our power button, and you can see here where the connection is for the power cord given in the box. Here when you push the button, a light will turn on to show whether it's on or off. Here is our controller port, connect up to the Pi. And here is our display port from the mini HDMI input to the HDMI output. And there's some minor bits of ventilation to let the Pi actually get some air through. The power requirements for the controller and the console are around 5 volts and 12 watts. So, if the power cable that comes in the box ever ended up getting broken, you could use an old phone charging brick as well as a micro USB cable, and the power requirements would still be met. One of the benefits of this console is that it is actually capture card compatible, so here you can see that everything is plugged in except for the HDMI cable, which is going to end up going into our capture card over here. This capture card is then connected to my computer, which is how I'm able to actually record the exact gameplay with such good quality, as well as being able to share it with friends as well in your own free time. Alright, now that the HDMI cable is actually plugged in, we can see that we're turning on the Pi, and over here we can actually see everything initializing. Here, using the Xbox controller that came in the box, here is a playtest of one of the games that I have installed. This is Sonic the Hedgehog. The goal of this game is to get to the beginning of the level to the end of the level. Along the way we have to collect rings, and if an enemy hits us, we lose all our rings. And if an enemy hits us without any rings, we end up dying and having to restart the level. If you don't like how the Xbox controller is configured, or you don't like how the Xbox controller feels, you can either reconfigure it or use an alternate controller. USB compatible controllers such as a Switch Pro controller actually are compatible with the console. Here you can see me configuring the Switch Pro controller. Now, in this video I did configure it very poorly. This was fixed off camera. However, this is just to show that it's actually compatible and can be customized to your needs. Here's actually a quick playtest using the Switch Pro controller instead of the Xbox controller. This is the game, Adventure. This is one of the first roleplay style games to hit the home market, actually. The goal of this game is to go from your castle to the other castle across the map and pick up the chalice and return it to your castle. Along the way, you're going to end up running into some dragons, so you can either try avoiding them or grabbing the weapon, at least in this level, grab the weapon in your castle to then slay the dragons with. As you can see from both playtests, both the Switch Pro controller and the Xbox controller work really well with the console. To be able to download games, we need to make sure that our Pi/our console is on the Wi-Fi. And the first step of doing that is to make sure that we actually have our Pi be set to our country of region. So to do that, you go into the Raspberry Pi, raspi-config folder, and then you wait for that to load for a little bit, and then once it does load, you're going to go down to localization options, and then at the bottom, you're going to see country of region, or something similar to that on the fourth slot. And then after that, you scroll until you find the country of region. And once you select that, you confirm, and then you should be able to connect to Wi-Fi's that are in your location. The other thing we need to do to be able to use remote filing to bring ROMs from our computer to our console is to get the SSH enabled. So to do that, you go back into the menu that we were just in beforehand before we select country of region, and go interface options. And then there you will see SSH. Once you do that, it'll ask if you want to enable it, select yes, and then after that, it's all done. Now we actually can connect to the Wi-Fi of choice. Now, to connect to the Wi-Fi, go all the way down to the menu that says Wi-Fi in RetroPie configuration, and once you confirm that, it'll take you to a menu, and then there, the first option there will be to connect to Wi-Fi. And it might take a minute because it's going to look for local Wi-Fi's near the Pi's location that it could possibly connect to. So then after that, you scroll to the network that you're looking for, and once you connect, you will actually see the IP address appear above. And that is actually how we are going to get games from our computer to the console itself. Okay, so now if we want to bring a game from our computer to the console, what we can do is go to any ROM website. I will have the link to this one in the description below, and then we're going to pick a console that we can use. I'm going to use Game Boy in this case. And here I'm going to choose to use the game Link's Awakening for the Game Boy. Ignore most of the ads that pop up here, general rule of thumb. But once it downloads, you're going to see a zip file show up. And then here, we're going to drag that into the folder that I have stored just for the ROMs to bring over to the console. So now after this, as we can see, that's where it is. There's a few other games in there that I have downloaded earlier. So now we're going to go to a file connector, which is here, FileZilla. And we're going to connect using the IP address, which I had already punched in. So here I'm reconnecting just to show off the example. And now we're going to go into RetroPie, ROMs, and because we use Game Boy, we're going to use GB. And now here I need to refresh this folder because, again, since I had this up and running earlier, I have to refresh it to show the new game that's downloaded. And now we just drag and drop it over. Now let's take a look from the Pi's perspective. Because once that's done, we need to go back to the Pi and actually reset it, because as we can see here, the Game Boy isn't there. So now if we go in and we go down to quit and restart console or restart system and confirm it, it'll shut down the Pi. And I'm going to jump to a little bit before it actually turns back on, just to show exactly what happens, and also to save a little bit of time. Because now, alright, so now we're back, and we can see emulation stations uploading, which is the last step of the Pi reinitializing. So then, once this is done, we should be able to see the Game Boy menu pop up as well as the game inside. And there we have it. There's the Game Boy game, and if we go select to look in the menu, there's the game we were looking for. Please do not store in extreme temperatures. Keep away from water and other various liquids as best as possible. And due to the limited airflow, even with the ventilation that is in the console, the Pi has tendency to overheat. If you notice it getting a little overly hot, save your progress and quit the game, as well as any game that is using 3D assets, such as a N64, the Pi cannot physically handle running that, so it'll actually end up just taking you back to the game menu. Thank you for watching this presentation.